Hey everyone, Overseas Famous Podcast. Kevin Owens here with Isis Young. Not many people know I go way back with Isis, back to when she was growing up and playing basketball and working with her a little at this place called PTL, where I used to do basketball training at. And it's so cool because I've heard a lot of things about Isis in the past. I know she went to Florida, and now she's playing professional basketball and now just got the color commentary job for the Connecticut Sun of the WNBA. Isis is so well-rounded, and it's going to be really great for us to catch up today on the Overseas Famous Podcast. Isis, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Kev. It's good to see you. Thank you for the introduction. You made my really long bio very concise. And so you didn't list all the colleges I've been to and the ACL injuries in between. So that was like perfect.
You don't want to, we'll maybe get to that. We'll throw that in there, but it is funny because, there is people like always down or get pissed off. And I'm such an advocate for athletes, especially, and I never bash the NCAA. Well, yeah, I do, but like, I don't really come after them because I just think it's totally, we have this whole system besides a few years ago when the transfer portal really opened up, where coaches you get recruited, you come in, your coach is there. He's always trying to move up to the next level. He leaves. And now you're like, I can't go anywhere. And if you're labeled as a transfer, everyone's just like, you're sitting out. There's all these rules and people almost look down upon it. And I never did that because I thought, why can't you have the same freedom? Especially most people commit when they're like 16, 17 years old. You're a young kid and you're supposed to commit to a place that will change the entire outcome of your life is a wild thing. So you go through, you start at Florida, play there. Obviously, you're a tremendous player being able to play SEC Florida. You go on, play at Syracuse, and become a tremendous player at Syracuse. Dealt with some injuries along the way, but let's talk about like just your ability to move on from different programs. Were those decisions kind of difficult? Was that something that you really had to sit down and be like, holy shit, what are people going to think? How is this going to be coming across? Or were you like, nah, this is for the best of me, I'm going, see ya?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the college like landscape has just changed completely. And when I was getting into it, it was in 2014, that's 8 years ago. Like it's a completely different world now. And so transferring was definitely hard. Transferring, I would say 3 times was hard. The Florida to Syracuse was fine. I went from the SEC to the ACC. So when you see me transfer, you don't think it's because of my ability. You think it's just because of the team, maybe the fit, the style of play, being far from home, all those things. Syracuse, I had a really good year there. And in the second year, I got into the master's program where I got my broadcast background from. And honestly, like just didn't play as much. I didn't get worse, obviously, in the next year, so it was just kind of coaching decisions and whatever else had happened. So transferring after that was tough because I was at the level in the ACC where I was playing against the best players in the country and I could hang, like I was there. And I had really wanted to have like a good breakout year and then decide after that, okay, whatever you want to do. And so having to transfer from Syracuse, go to Fordham, I tear my ACL in the first 2 weeks at Fordham in practice. And I'm like heartbroken. And now I think like maybe my career is over because I've gotten 2 ACL injuries in the past 5 years. I have a master's degree in broadcasting, which I really want to do. And so do I really need to keep going was really my mindset. And so rehabbing at Fordham, getting to Siena, finishing as a leading scorer in the league in a COVID year, which was extremely tough. And then going overseas was honestly, Kevin, like a miracle. Like, I don't know why God drew out my plan that way. Sometimes I complain about it, but most of the time I'm extremely thankful because it was different. He chose it, not me. And it worked out. At the end of the day, I got my dream job and I'm in Greece hooping. And there's nothing better than that.
It's so cool. There's this thing my dad used to tell me all the time. And he used to talk about, the pencil, and he used to compare life to a pencil. And he used to be like, the pencil is the most important instrument, but it gets sharpened. It's constantly in pain. It's getting sharpened. In order for it to perform its best, it has to go through so much shit. And I always think about that, even with my career, with your career, you had so many sharpening incidences, but it just made you right, stronger and better. And I think that's like a lot of overseas athletes have dealt with that. We're not like there's a lot of people who just, WNBA, right to the WNBA, right to the NBA. Like they're, Paige Becker, obviously with her knee injury, but there's a lot of girls and guys who just, everything's like a straight path and they don't really
Yes.
hit that adversity. I think
Yeah.
that adversity is so important because it builds
Yeah.
this character, especially after your career. I think it's, you have this great opportunity with the Connecticut Sun, and a lot of it was probably because you've worked so hard and learned to kind of, adapt to different situations. And now you have this great opportunity in front of you.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, all of the relationships that I've created along the way at each school have helped. I can tell you someone important from Florida, Syracuse, Fordham, and Siena that helped me get to the point where I am now, either on the court or off the court. And so I think almost the best thing about my journey is obviously having to be resilient and get through injuries and constantly going to a different campus every few years and adjusting to that. But also just creating all those different relationships from really good universities, which helped me get to where I am. So definitely feel like a pencil. And I kind of like that analogy. I think I'm going to take that with me. I'm going to steal that.
Take it. I told my daughter it like 3 times already. And I mean, she's 9. So she's just like, Dad, I get it. I'm like a pencil. I'm like, you don't get it. I'm like, you're a pencil. And she's just like, whatever, you'll understand in like 10 years.
She actually really is more of an iPad because that's her generation.
Yes,
but it's
exactly. You're like an iPad. Sometimes the screen cracks and Daddy has to buy you a new one. Just different, we just got to roll with the technology. My dad's using a pencil. Kids don't even know what a pencil is anymore. It's a different world we're living in.
Completely different.
So you really, you had a lot of cool things happen with broadcasting. I know you were doing games while you were playing. You were going to other colleges even and doing reporting, sideline reporting. You were doing color commentary for a lot of different places and grinding that out because you really wanted to kind of build that. How important was that networking for you to be able to do that? Now suddenly you get this great opportunity.
I can't even put it on a scale from 1 to 10 how important it was. Honestly, I thank my parents for the work ethic that they passed on to me because that was really all I practiced in college. I found my love for broadcasting while I was in my redshirt year at Syracuse. And like, when I say I found another love, like I really did, like it was nothing that you could say or do for me to stop. I would never show you my first interview that I did with my teammate because it was terrible and I would never have the job I would have if I ever showed anybody that, but it helped me grow. And I just walked away from the first interview feeling like I'm not at all good, but I have potential and I love this. And so like, if you have those two things, man, you could take it as far as you want.
Yeah.
So, the year at Fordham where I was rehabbing my second ACL and I was thinking about what am I going to do next? I just was like, listen, while I'm here and I'm not playing basketball, we're just going to develop the other part of my life that I really love, which was my career. So like you said, I went to different schools and I really just worked as a freelance broadcaster while getting a master's degree at Fordham in the business school, which is very tough. Like I really learned just, time management to another level. But the only thing that I thought about, Kev, was when I was in the thick of it and I was doing 2 to 4 games a week, I just was like, I can't wait until I get to the point where I'm just a broadcaster. Like this is just what I do, because the time that I will have to put into it and the places that I could take it when that is just my focus will be awesome. And I kind of get a little bit of that this summer working with the Sun, but I'm also still a professional hooper. I had a conversation with my boss the other day and I was like, hey, listen, this is probably not normal, but can I get some court time during the season, like after practices or on the road? I said, I know most of your analysts are normally retired and they're done, but unfortunately I'm not. And I plan to make more money next year. So I kind of got to work out. And she was like, absolutely, we'll work it out for you. No big deal. And so it just goes to show you that just, work ethic and just, knowing what I want to do and being passionate about those two things. Honestly, that road has just mended it into one for me. And it's just been really awesome to be a part of. But one of the best things I ever did in college was network and really set myself up for the career that I'll have after basketball or during basketball.
It's the win-win situation of you being at the Connecticut Sun and having and the opportunity now to continue working out at a WNBA facility is like incredible. I don't think that's not many people have the opportunity to do that. And I think that's great. And there's going to be, I mean, it's cool because you're going to build those connections too with the actual players, and you're still hooping. So like, it's a very unique thought process that you're still hooping and you're going, working with these WNBA girls. And, there's times when they're just like, listen, like, I'm not, like you said, I'm not retired. Like I can come out here and, do my thing and you'd be impressed with what I can do. Like, because
100%. If you need
I'm
an
a
extra
hooper.
person to pick up, just holler at me. I keep my sneaks in the car. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy too? Just be like, oh, someone got hurt. Hold on. Who could we ISIS? Come on down. Like, yep, here I am.
It's funny. Someone the other day, one of my friends is like, so what's like your next goal with basketball? And I was like, yo, honestly, if I just got a training camp invitation, knowing that I just called this team's games all year, I'd be good. Like that I think that would prove everything that I've ever probably wanted to prove. Is just that you can do two things you love and be really, 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 really good at both. And that is my goal, is just to do two things I love and be really, really, really good at both. I know it's going to be hard. And I know my rookie season, just like my rookie season overseas, won't be perfect. It won't always look great. But honestly, like the fact that I'm able to do it and give it a shot, and my best shot, I'm just so honestly thrilled to like just be sitting where I am.
I want to send this interview to like a lot of the clients that we have overseas famous with like the mentorship and the program we're doing, helping young athletes like find their jobs, because not many people, there is that time overseas. Like you have that time where you're not doing practice or anything, and you're just kind of like, people play PlayStation or, they're just rest or something. And you're like, you have that time to build. And, I'm always talking about like 15 minutes, just 15 minutes a day, spend that 15 minutes trying to get better. You're doing two things extremely well and showing that it can be done, that you can have a really successful basketball career and a really successful career doing something else. And I think that's just you're an outlier in terms of like what is going on in professional basketball. And I think it's just great because not many guys, you see the guys who are starting and girls who are getting into other ventures, and you see a lot of people who aren't, and they're just like spending that time being young, which I get, being young and being excited to be a basketball player, but always thinking about that future is great. And I think you have that down. It's very humbling to see young athletes be able to figure it out at such a young age. So it's super dope. I'm like excited for you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's 100% opportunity. The Sun job came to me because there was an alumni who had pitched my name, and they did some research. And they were like, "Oh yeah, reach out to her. She seems like she might be good." And they're looking for someone young. I had never even met him. We just connected through Twitter, and he sent me a DM, and I was like, "Okay, it's Q's alum. Why not chat it up? I have nothing else to do over here. I already finished practice." But I think the 15-minute thing is a great thing, because I wasn't even doing that. What I did was I just decided when I was in college that I was going to grind my butt off and have a reel ready and make the connections. And if anything came while I was over here chasing my other dream, fine. And that's really exactly what happened. And so since that's happened, I've obviously been putting in more of the 15 minutes every day and trying to get ready for the job. But it's really hard over here, I think, to balance, because you have so much time, but being in a different country, a different culture, a different environment, different team, not the same language normally, it is a lot to balance. And then to be able to think about a career and a different career once you get home, it's just a lot to juggle. And so shout out to anyone who is doing it, because it's definitely been tough over here for my first year overseas. And that's aside from getting a really cool broadcasting job.
Well, could have gone back because of the COVID rules and because of your injuries. You could have gone back to Siena for one more year, but you were like, you know what, I'm going to give this overseas thing a go. So
I thought 7 was enough.
But like, it's cool because you continued with your education. Like some people, you get hurt and it's like that depression, which we've all dealt with, sets in, but you still kept grinding in school and got your master's, which is a great thing. But you went to that 7th year and they were like, okay, you could come back for an 8th year. You were like, I'm going to go overseas. So when you made that decision, take us through that initial journey of, trying to find the next step? You found an agent. Now it's like, okay, where are we going? How are we going to set this up?
Yeah, I had a really unorthodox situation, actually. So my assistant coach at Siena, her father was the head coach of a team in Germany. My little brother, Isaiah, plays professional soccer in Germany. And so right off the bat, when I decided I wanted to play overseas, that was the first country that I was looking into, because I wanted to be near him. Obviously, it's like a dream come true, right? To finish my game, to drive a couple hours and go watch his game.
Yeah.
So her dad had coached the team. They connected me. They gave me an offer. It was good money. And so before I took the offer, I went and got an agent just to make sure that I had somebody that, again, could advocate on my behalf, because I'm a rookie. I don't know anything. Neither do my parents. We don't know this life. Right. So I got the agent, signed the deal. And, it was a tough decision because I think my parents are really pushing me to stay in college for another year. I had a good year. Like I said, I finished as the league's leading scorer. And I only played 15 games. And this was after my second ACL injury. So I still wasn't fully like 100% back. Like you could still tell my limitations on the court watching me play. But I had just decided that, like, I think I had gotten enough out of college as I could. I did everything I possibly could do in 7 years of college that I think anyone could do. And so when I decided it was time to go overseas, it was more of just, okay, get to a league where you know that you're going to play, you're going to be depended on, where you can take time and really make sure that this knee is good, have good numbers, and try to be near family, which is something really cool. So I started my career in Germany, ended up leaving the team because I wasn't vaccinated and they wanted somebody that was vaccinated. Just one of those things that happened, unfortunately, in COVID and overseas. So I did, though, however, make it to my brother's game before I left, which was awesome. It's one of my favorite memories being over here. I literally was like a mom over there. Like I cried and everything when he gave me his jersey. It was like the most heartwarming thing ever to watch your younger brother like do his dream while you're doing yours. And then I found a team in Greece. And so I've been in Greece all season. Still the leading scorer on my team right now. And it's just been really cool, I think, to experience two different countries and cultures in my first year, be near family, have things not work out, but somehow my story, like things don't work out at first. And then the second or third option is like the best thing ever. And that's kind of really what I've experienced here. Like with this season, I've been completely healthy. My knee is doing good. I've been able to play every game. I've been able to compete. I've met other Americans over here, created those relationships. And I'm really thinking about like staying in Greece and making a name for myself because I love the culture and I really like the league. And I wouldn't have experienced that if my German team didn't kick me off. So it's cool, it's been cool.
It's always that you never, that's overseas basketball in a nutshell. Like everything it's just, they shake up the Yahtzee and throw it out and all of a sudden everything appears. And sometimes it's like a complete perfect situation. And it's just, you're bouncing around. Because no one really stays in the same team, but it's cool that you're kind of embracing that Greek culture. I know on the male side, I played in Kosovo, which is kind of part of that Balkan region. Yes. And the fans are very intense. And I know, watching, Panathinaikos, give me my Greek, tell me
Panathinaikos.
Yeah.
Panathinaikos.
It's crazy. I'm trying to get that like little Greek twang to it. I can't do it. But they have that such a strong atmosphere, such strong EuroLeague team. Have you kind of experienced that in the women's side? Is there a large, intense fan base for the women in Greece as well?
Yeah, I would say the top two teams historically here are Olympiacos and Panathinaikos. And so I remember playing at Panathinaikos. It was one of my first games with the team, like had to be one of the first 3 games. And so the fans are in there. I mean, they're rocking. They've got flags. I smelled some weed. Like it was like a party. Like there are fireworks after. I will never get over the drums. Kevin, I will never get over the drums. Like hearing drums live during your game. I don't know what it is, or because people are like actually in the stands right next to you, but the drums go crazy. So it was kind of like my comparison to it was like playing Notre Dame at Notre Dame. And like how fans don't shut up and they're constantly heckling the refs, even though we're playing against Muffin McGraw and she gets every call in America. So like there's no need to heckle and not being able to hear a play call. like having to change all of your play calls to symbols and finger symbols. And we're like out here doing Illuminati sign because we're trying to figure out what play we're running. That was the experience. And I loved it. I was like, this is what I want. This is the This is the overseas experience that I want. And when you play against a historical club like that, you just have so much respect for it. Just so much respect walking in and out and seeing the jerseys in the rafters and the different people who have been there. And the coach, which you can go and do research on, and they had a legendary career overseas. So I definitely think that that's in the Greek culture. Not as much every team, but the historical clubs like Panathinaikos, Olympiacos, PAOK, their gyms and stadiums and the following is just so cool. It's honestly so cool.
It is such a unique experience. I every time someone in America, and we've talked about this in the show before, anytime it's someone in America has, you know, a water bottle thrown at them and they're like so pissed and people are like, how dare they? I'm like every overseas athlete I know is like, dude, really? Like you wouldn't last a day over there. Those guys,
No.
that's almost, if someone throws a water bottle at you, you're like, oh, it's, you know, it's like you didn't throw a coin. Like that's so,
right.
Maybe they just wanted me to get a drink.
It's almost like a sign of endearment, you know, like the ultimate disrespect is like really respectful. Like clearly I'm doing my job, you know?
Exactly.
But yeah, I would say that it gets intense over here and you love it. And then when they travel, you know, they come with their bands and you have your band. It's like, it's awesome. And, you know, I think the coolest part is always the fan base. It's always, you know, finishing my games and going to the local dessert shop that I'm at every single day, Kevin. And the owner being like, how was the game? Checking in. How is this? When's the next game? Okay. Are you coming back next year? Like that part is so cool to me to be able to connect with people in a different country who literally through sport is the best thing ever too. So I would say I love that as well.
I definitely felt that because you're overseas, you're like this big star, but it's a different kind of star. Like in America, fandom is just crazy. Like you're a celebrity, meaning if you go somewhere, people are going to chase you in the street. People overseas, like you're a star, you go into a place and you know, you're playing a game, everyone's cheering, but then you go out and you're like in the town, people are like, hi, how are you? Like there's no like surrounding you. You can go to the local places and eat and everyone's just like, hey, how are you? It's just like like, oh, hey, let's go. It's not the same craziness that people experience because I feel like our celebrity is so big. If like the best player in Europe walked around, people would be like, hey, how are you? And, you know, but if LeBron James walked around, people are like chasing him and taking pictures and like asking for, it's just a different scene. They don't take that fandom as seriously. They're very passionate about what they do. But at the same time, like, you know, they're just doing our thing.
Yeah, I think it's because they find you approachable, you know, like you said, like you still, you know, respect where you are and their culture. And so they respect you. And so I think you're definitely like, you know, a star, but you're just an approachable star, you know, who they don't feel like they got to go through security to talk to or ask to take a picture with or anything. They're like, nah, let me grab Isa coffee and we talk about her last game or who they play next or the Greek derby. And do you like Olympiacos or Panathinaikos better? And like any answer you give in any place is wrong because there are two fans on the opposite side. Like, that is the cool part about being overseas for sure. I completely agree with you on the superstar, but not really kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a different world, but I do love it. Greece, just a beautiful place. Have you been able to get out as well and explore? Because I know that's a big thing that I didn't do until later in my career, getting out and seeing the different cultures, seeing the different things, seeing the sites. Have you been able to do that now that you've kind of settled in?
Yeah, I joke with my friends back home because I love the beach. I'm from Jersey, you know that.
Yeah.
And God really put me in the wrong country because there's a beach everywhere. There's water everywhere. And so I'm like before practice, it gets warm. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna holler on the beach. I'll be on the beach for 2 hours. I'm gonna come back, take a nap, make sure I'm ready, and then go. So I spend a ton of time on the beach getting the views. We go to Athens a lot. I'm in Lefkada, which is like a smaller island. So it's about 5 hours from Athens. So obviously that has been really cool to get to a couple of times, be able to get to know the city, do a little bit of shopping. Thessaloniki is another big city. That's where PAOK is out of. And so I spent Christmas there. Actually, I had a college teammate that was from there. So I spent it with her and her family. So that was a really cool city. Got to see this white tower who is like on the sea downtown. It has a whole bunch of history to it. And then I've been to Paraguay, which is a small city that is just kind of like a tourist kind of island again. But some of the craziest views I've ever seen. Like it is just beautiful. Literally every corner you go around, like it is just so beautiful, and really welcoming people. And so the thing I like about where I am in that small city is when you go and it's not tourist season, people get to know you because it's not packed. You're like one of 5 people in the restaurant because otherwise the town is small and it's just kind of the townies that are around. So again, I thrive on like building relationships, and I'm like, oh no, I will come back here and vacation when I have a family or whatever. I will pick like these little cities to come back to, because I really have found like a kind of second home. And I don't know if that's a credit to me being outgoing or that's a credit to just the town and the people being so welcoming. But those cities that I've been to have been really cool. I've connected with people in those cities. And that's probably why I'm so biased on like coming back here and making a name for myself in this country.
Yep.
Because what I've seen from it so far, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And the food is great. And like, who wouldn't come back to good food?
I think a lot about you. The WNBA season, it's during the summer. A lot of players head overseas. Have you in your playing encountered, a big name WNBA player who you're kind of like, oh shit, okay. Like, I know who you are. I know who you are.
Yeah. Rachel Holloway is one. She plays on PAOK. She's a big, and she was drafted, I think in maybe 2013, 2015-ish. And she was drafted and she played for a little bit in the league. So now she's here. I've come across Chastity Patterson. She plays for a team in Athens. She played for Kentucky, was a really good guard. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years she gets a training camp invitation and makes her way up. She's one of the people who are putting a name for herself out here too. But yeah, I think those are 2 of kind of the main ones that I've come across with talent or connections that I think will make it to the next level. Greece is really cool in that you get a mix of rookies like me who are trying to make a name for themselves and have, good numbers their first year. And then you get some of the older vets who have played for a few years and now want to play in a country where it's nice, it's beautiful, the living is cool, and the league is still competitive and you make really good money. And so that's kind of the difference in what I'm seeing. And like I said, it's just so cool. The Americans that I've met, and just in some of them, having played against in college. One I met the other day, Alexis Tolfree, she played for Arkansas. And so I played against her when I was at Florida, just many moons ago. Like, again, that's like 7 years ago, but she's been out for 2 years. And so we're like talking during the game because we're the only Americans who look like each other. So we can make little jokes about referees and stuff. And being able to, create a relationship with her and be like, oh, him and how's overseas and how's this and that. It's so dope. And so I would say that the talent in my league is really good. But I've definitely met a couple of players where I could see, getting to the next level or having a chance to crack at WNBA or have had it like Rachel.
Well, I always say when you talk about the WNBA, there's such a limited number of spots, and I'm a huge advocate for the WNBA. I'm hoping for expansion just to give more opportunities for women's basketball. And I look at I've talked to a lot of people about just when that early development starts, you really develop these like really good female athletes. And then it's like you get to the pinnacle and there's only so many places that they can go. It's the roads start to kind of like wind into like one road and there's just this log jam. And creating more opportunities for those women within the WNBA would be incredible. So I'm like a huge, it's weird because I've talked to people in power in Philadelphia and be like, what do we need? What do we need? I'm like, a WNBA team. And they're like, okay, do we need a lacrosse? I'm like, no, we need a WNBA team. Like we need something that strong women's presence. We need a women's soccer team. Like we need that strong women's presence in Philadelphia because I think it's just something that's really you want to give the athletes as much opportunity as they can. And I have a 9-year-old who is a pretty decent athlete and I want her to have the best opportunities. So opening those roads would be huge. And that's what I always talk about because as a strong female basketball player, and you almost talked about, like, there's a lot of people who end up overseas that definitely could be playing in the WNBA had there been more of roster spots available.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And we're not going to act like WNBA is a league where people don't really retire.
Yeah.
We've got like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi coming back, and they're like 40. And it's like,
It's so true.
come on. Yeah, like it's different when you talk about Tom Brady, and it's like, okay, but there are how many teams and how many spots, and like he's also had to fight off competition all his career, along with fighting off his age. But here, like, it's 144 spots. It's 12 teams, and the veterans don't want to retire, and they're still the top of their game. I wouldn't say the top. They're still at a high enough level to compete. And so that's the other thing about the league is like you don't have a lot of spots, but you also don't have a lot of people retiring.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get in. My question for you was going to be to pick a city for a WNBA team to go in, because I always suggest Philly. I think Philly is great. And I always think the key really is to pick cities where there is already a strong women's basketball following.
Yes.
And I think like Philly Hoopers, we have proven that like Philly is one of those hubs, right? There's a New York team, and it's the reason why the Liberty have like gotten better and are getting more of a following because they're in New York,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely think Philly is one. It's hard. There's so many things that go into it. And even recently, there have been different teams in the league that have moved cities because they weren't getting what they needed, right?
Yeah.
In those cities. So they just got to find their footing and find the right formula for how to pick a city and how to go about that. And then to execute that, because there are a lot of cities, and women's basketball following is obviously going up, where I think it can be really marketable if they put it in the right place.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's definitely some places down south with the rise of like South Carolina and these really good college teams, because that's why the Connecticut Sun has a good drawing, because UConn has really that's a huge hub, like you said. A lot of female basketball players wanted to play at UConn, so that Connecticut basketball rose. I think Philadelphia really has such a strong presence, like you said. Even New Jersey, like that whole New Jersey Philadelphia thing, like we got some hoopers, and it would be great to
area. It's a tri-state area, but there are already two teams in Connecticut and New York, but there needs to be a third. Like there's enough basketball love for us to go around in that area. I think South Carolina, like you said, would be a good one. Even Tennessee, Tennessee is a huge women's basketball following. Like, obviously the Lady Vols and Pat Summitt and the history that's come with that, but like even how they're doing still after, new coaches have come after. I think Tennessee would be a good one. And then it always baffles me how there's no team in Florida.
Yeah,
like Florida
it's
has
wild.
Like major cities, you could do Miami, Tampa, Orlando. Like there are multiple major, and I'm just confused how there's like not one that somebody could pick and just drop the team in Miami. Drop the team in Miami.
It'll be easy.
Who wouldn't want to go to Miami and hoop? Take me, shoot.
New Orleans is like a good one too. Louisiana Tech was like a huge name. Just like New Orleans, like who doesn't want everyone wants to do something in New Orleans. Like find a place where people just want to get, do something and get out there, and just find these areas where it will draw a great crowd. I'm hoping. Yeah,
I think it's up to the college basketball coaches who stay at places like you mentioned. New Orleans made me think of Kim Mulkey at LSU.
Yeah,
if Kim sits there for a few years and really builds it up, I could see a team near her doing really good. At Texas, I think there are other cities in Texas that they could hit. Obviously, Dallas is one, but Texas is a huge breed of women's basketball players. Like that was always a thing on the AAU circuit. Like you play in a Texas team, get it together, because they come up with heat. So yeah, I hope somehow somebody figures it out one day and gets us a couple more teams in the next few years.
I'm hoping. Isis, the WNBA. I'm very excited for you with the Connecticut Sun. It's going to be a lot of fun to listen to you broadcast the games. You're going to be home soon. I'm going to send you some merch. It's going to be, this was just great catching up with you, talking a little bit about, your experience overseas, and very excited for you to continue your career overseas and to grow your broadcasting career, to excel at two different things. It's just tremendous. So I'm super excited that you joined us today.
Thanks, Kev. Thanks for having me. And shout out to you for all the work that you're doing. Obviously setting a great example for your daughter, and just someone who took sport seriously and took it as a vehicle to get to other things. And still connecting with overseas athletes who need this. There are people who need this podcast and who need to be uplifted and know that what they're going through is not anything different, and that there are other outlets that they can do and pursue while overseas and after. So thank you for the work you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, this has been the Overseas Famous podcast with Isis Young, Kevin Owens. We'll see you guys again next week.